There's no sports league unlike it anywhere in the world, where cartoons and football come together. This is the United States Cartoon Football League, celebrating its 40th anniversary.
Freeze! It's the police!
There is, officer. He's the one that stole my pocketbook.
I ain't never stole nothing in my life.
Yes,
you don't
he
even know
did.
me. Hold on. What's your name, boy? My name is Busy B, sir. Busy who? Yeah, Busy B. Boy, you gonna be buzzing in jail if
I
you
ain't
don't
never
bring that
stole nothing,
pocketbook
though.
back.
I ain't never stole no pocketbook, sir.
Yes, man, me see a thief the pocketbook long time
I ain't
now.
never seen, you ain't seen nothing. You
Yes,
Jamaican
man.
faggot.
There
Yes,
go the
me see
pocketbook
ya.
right there.
I ain't never stole nothing.
Come on, get up against
I
the
don't
wall.
have
Get up
nothing.
against the
Y'all
wall,
wrong.
boy.
Y'all
Get up
wrong.
against the
Make
wall.
your
Get up
Christmas,
against the wall.
man.
Y'all got the wrong person.
You damn thief, yeah.
I never stole nothing. You don't even know.
You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have the right for an attorney. If you do not or cannot afford an attorney will be appointed to you. You are now under arrest. Crime. It pays real nice, but what you really didn't know, the crime pays twice. It pays once in money, twice in years. In the jail cell, trying to hide your tears. In the trick bag, cause you tried to get rich. In the graveyard, or in the shallow ditch. It's money or time, so make up your mind. Vice, 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 vice. He adored turned out to be another dirty old broad. Took all the money, told all the lies. I heard she even slept with other guys. Nothing she wouldn't do for $1 or $2. But every lie she told he knew to be true. He loved his honey, but she loved money. Talk about Yale, it's everywhere you go. They said that Miami it'll never snow. Now it's snow in the palm trees, snow on the sand. It snows all day for $60 a gram. Now they're strung out and high, hung out to dry. The air that they breathe, the food that they buy. They think that they can fly, but that's a white lie. Vice, 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 vice. Extort and steal all raw. Started as a hitman looking for wealth, and now he's the boss working for himself. For all the blood money that he did earn.
Greetings, cartoon football fans, and especially fans of literary fiction. This is Bob Mozark of the USCFL Network welcoming you to this contest as we will rate and review stories written by Robbie Graham about his creation and the world's newest superheroine, Fashion Girl. Here's how this contest works. Fashion Girl, and only Fashion Girl, is participating, and football scoring will once again be used. The scores we give will also be done by a percentage rate. 120 points is the maximum score, and 100% will be the maximum percentage. There will also be an excerpt courtesy of Alexa, the Amazon app. In addition, Robbie will also provide information about the world of the Style Chicks. As we begin round 10, Fashion Girl has a score of 62 points out of a possible 72 points and a percentage rate of 51.7. This round is about a story that preceded what is happening now across the United States. You can hear this story in its entirety here on this USCFL channel. After we take a brief pause, we will begin round 10 of the Adventures of Fashion Girl, fighting crime with style, and this week's story, Lawlessness and Disorder. There is a famous saying, power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Fashion Girl author Robbie Graham explores that theme in The Final Adventures of Fashion Girl, Book 3, Lawlessness and Disorder. Chapter 1. A recent election has brought a clean slate to the town of Colonia. The new mayor, Anthony Coleman, has replaced Police Chief Marcus with the mayor's brother, William Coleman. Chief Coleman has called Fashion Girl in for a meeting and informs her that her services as a crime fighter in Colonia are no longer wanted. In fact, any attempt by her or any of the Style Chicks to stop or investigate criminal activity will result in their immediate arrest. Fashion Girl tells Chief Coleman that she and the Style Chicks will obey and comply with the new restrictions. On the way out of the police headquarters, Fashion Girl sees Chief Marcus and asks him to come by that night to discuss matters. Fashion Girl returns to the Mystique Boutique and informs the other Style Chicks of the new procedures. She asks Victoria to research the backgrounds of the Colemans. She also asks Macy and Godiva to discreetly monitor street crimes to get a view of the new order in Colonia. Chapter 2. Chief Marcus tells Fashion Girl that he was forced into retirement by the new mayor. Godiva reports that the new mayor is a well-known Wall Street criminal and has been barred from holding any corporate office by the SEC. He won the election by corruption and does not even attempt to live or work in the town. Fashion Girl also finds out that the mayor has replaced the Colonia Circuit Judge with Donald Coleman, another of his brothers. Fashion Girl and the Style Chicks resolve to protect Colonia from these carpetbagging despots. Chapter 3. While Fashion Girl travels to Sacramento with Chief Marcus to meet with the governor, the Style Chicks fan out across the city. They observe newly hired police officers extorting money from honest citizens with fake citations. Two of the cooks at Victoria's Bistro are ticketed for jaywalking, and Victoria is told by the policeman to expect nothing but trouble for her business. Chapter 4. Fashion Girl's allies continue to experience harassments and arrests. Chief Marcos' wife is concerned that he has not called her. The Style Chicks fill her in on what is happening. Penny flies to Sacramento to brief Fashion Girl and Chief Marcus on the latest developments. Chapter 5. In Sacramento, Fashion Girl is upset by all the bad news from Colonia. During her meeting with the governor, they watch news reports about the changed atmosphere in Colonia and find out that Godiva has been arrested on a trumped-up charge of shoplifting. The governor promises to send in the National Guard, but then informs Fashion Girl that he is the fourth Coleman brother. Fashion Girl is not sure that she has done right by going to him. Chapter 6. Fashion Girl returns in time for Godiva's arraignment. It is clear that Judge Coleman is just as corrupt as the police department under Chief Coleman. Fashion Girl also observes that most of the other people being arraigned have some connection to her. Afterwards, she and the remaining style chicks plot their counteraction. Chapter 7. Fashion Girl dresses up as Madame D, a dominatrix, and treats two of the police officers to a just payback. Chapter 8. As Madame D, Fashion Girl meets with Chief Coleman and warns him to change his ways, but he refuses. Fashion Girl later gets 3 new ghostly allies, the spirits of Chanel, Fashion Girl's mother, Daphne Blake, and Rhonda, the ill-fated member of Rosie's gang of juvenile delinquents, have all manifested into physical bodies to come to her aid. Zara, the marine biologist, becomes the newest archangel called Sea Girl. Chapter 9. Fashion Girl has an online conference with Superman and She-Ra to inform the Justice League and the Galactic Alliance about what has happened in Colonia in the past 3 days. She then holds a press conference to expose and denounce the abuses on the citizens of Colonia by Mayor Coleman and his brothers. Chapter 10. Fashion Girl is pleased to learn that the county sheriff has remained independent and is ready to take action against the corrupt town officials. As archangels, Fashion Girl and the style chicks quickly capture the corrupt police officers. Chief Coleman and Judge Coleman are arrested as they attempt to sneak out of town with their ill-gotten loot. Mayor Coleman is arrested in his Beverly Hills home. Governor Coleman is forced out of office for failing to carry through on his responsibility to enforce the laws that his brothers were breaking. Chief Marcus agrees to become the acting mayor until new and honest elections can be held. Fashion Girl is given an appointment as a special consultant to the police so that her actions as a crime fighter will be lawful. We will now briefly pause before returning for the wrap-up and scoring.
Chief Marcus was in civilian clothes. Fashion Girl had a bottle of fine scotch waiting. She poured 2 glasses, handed one to Chief Marcus, and said, "Chief, the reason why I asked you over is because Chief Coleman told me about a report stating that the police here was soft." Chief Marcus replied, "What report?" "Fashion Girl, if anything, our police force is the finest in the country." "What else did he tell you?" Fashion Girl said, "He threatened me and the others with prison if I or the others interfere with police business. The officers are fat because they hang out at Dunkin' Donuts," he said. "But I know that's not the case." Chief Marcus replied, "I admit that some of the officers have put on a little weight, but it's not from donuts. As for me, it's old age. Fashion Girl, we've known each other for years. I know you don't do our work for us. You work with us. Tomorrow morning, I'll talk with the new chief." Fashion Girl asked, "Something's puzzling me, Chief. You wouldn't be re-elected to office unless you were the county sheriff. Why did you retire?" Chief Marcus answered, "Retire? I was fired." Fashion Girl said, "What? Why?" Chief Marcus replied, "The new mayor is a crook. I'm sure he bought the election and hired his brother to replace me." Fashion Girl said, "So that's it, very clever. Get rid of a good man in you, replacing you with a corrupt official. Getting rid of me to make sure that chaos will erupt. Chief, the city will go into anarchy if we don't stop it." Chief Marcus said, "If you try to stop it, you'll go to jail. And Fashion Girl, don't call me Chief. I'm not the chief anymore." Fashion Girl replied, "As far as I'm concerned, you're still in charge. You're too good a man to just let this stop you from doing the right thing." Chief Marcus replied, "And you're too good a woman to just sit on your hands and do nothing." Fashion Girl said, "Don't be too sure of that, Chief. I have Vicky looking online to find anything about our new mayor and police chief. Just then Victoria walked in and said, Fashion girl, Chief Marcus, I found out some information about our new mayor and police chief. Fashion girl replied, you're quick, Vicky. Tell us what you found out. Victoria continued, our new mayor, Anthony Coleman, is a first-class crook. He's been banned for life from trading on the New York Stock Exchange. He's worse than that Madoff character. His Ponzi schemes are more elaborate and deliberate. He doesn't live here. He lives in Los Angeles, Beverly Hills to be specific. He's got not only his brother William here as police chief. His other brother Donald is now a judge. Fashion girl, we are dealing with some very, very bad people. Chief Marcus got mad and replied, Vicky, how did the new mayor become mayor? Victoria said, he bought the election, and the real candidates didn't stand a chance. You aren't the only person who got fired, Chief. To make Donald Coleman a judge, the mayor fired Judge Hamilton. Fashion girl said, Judge Hamilton is one of the finest judges in the state. Vicky, right? We will be dealing with some very bad people. Chief Marcus asked, can I borrow your phone, Fashion girl? I'm giving the tin-plated police chief a piece of my mind right now. Fashion girl passed the phone and replied, be my guest, sir. Chief Marcus picked up the phone and called Chief Coleman. When Chief Coleman picked up, Chief Marcus said, Chief Coleman, I have a bone to pick with you. I'm at the Mystique Boutique, and Fashion Girl told me what you told her about not interfering with police business. Fashion Girl is the best thing that's ever happened to this community. Because of her, the citizens of this city can be out and about without fear that they could be mugged or shot. Not only is Fashion Girl respected and admired here, she's got several commendations from the NYPD, the LAPD, Interpol, Scotland Yard, the FBI, and the CIA. Fashion Girl has always helped us with criminals that I knew we couldn't handle. She has never overstepped her bounds. She's never made an arrest. In fact, she waits for us to come. She doesn't own handcuffs. And most importantly, she has never taken a single dime for her services here. For you to tell her that she's no longer welcome at the precinct, or that she can't help the police, is a blatant disregard of service and justice. You want my job, fine, but I will not let you prevent Fashion Girl or the style chicks from helping this community. Chief Coleman replied, are you done, Mr. Marcus? That's a fine speech, but my decision stands. If Fashion Girl or any of her allies interfere, they will be put in prison. Enjoy your retirement, Mr. Marcus. Chief Coleman laughed as he hung up the phone. Chief Marcus said, I'm sorry, Fashion Girl. I tried. Fashion Girl replied, thank you for trying. I guess my name here is Mud from now on. Chief Marcus asked, didn't your mother and father solve mysteries? Fashion Girl replied, of course they did. But the culprits were hiding behind masks and costumes pretending to be ghosts or monsters. The police never told them not to interfere, but of course the culprits said that now infamous saying, I would have gotten away with it if it weren't for those meddling kids. So I'm thinking to do what they did. Only in my case and that of the style chicks, we're going to be meddling adults.
And now for a style chick profile. We're profiling Fashion Girl's ride, the Glammobile. Lots of fictional characters have their own modes of transportation, and Fashion Girl is no exception. As she is known as the stylish crime fighter, she also gets around in style. While Batman has the Batmobile, Fashion Girl's parents drove around the world in the Mystery Machine, Wonder Woman has the Invisible Jet, and the Duke Boys had the General Lee. The stylish crime fighter gets around in style. This is an artist's rendition of the Glammobile, a 2004 Lamborghini Diablo that is 3 vehicles in one. As a car, it can reach speeds up to 500 miles an hour. It also acts as a flying machine that with a touch of a button, wings come out of the sides of the vehicle and the steering wheel acts like a plane's wheel does. It can also ride above the water like a hovercraft and even go underwater like a submarine. It rides on rails, literally and figuratively, as it can also ride on rails like a train. The car also features oil slicks, a winch and pulley. It can shoot out spikes and crash through walls without a scratch. Just as I hope that Fashion Girl will one day become famous, I also hope that her ride will also become famous as well.
Wrap up. Fashion Girl had a steep learning curve as she found out that her superpowers were not more powerful than the law itself. However, the law is intended to protect the citizens of a community, not abuse them on trumped-up charges. Once Fashion Girl takes action, the house of cards erected by the Colemans quickly collapses. I give this episode a solid 7. As always, viewers are invited to submit their own reviews and scores. The book, The Final Adventures of Fashion Girl by Robbie Graham, is available on Amazon.com. Tune in next week for another Fashion Girl story review. This is Bob Mozart of the USCFL Network signing off.